And tell us about meeting DJ Screw and SUC and all that, you know, because that's crazy. That's big. You know, DJ Screw's the legend. He's one of the starters in hip hop, one of the founders, and you know.
Well,
R.I.P. DJ Screw.
You know, growing up in Houston, you know, at the time, like I said, the only way you got the music was through Screw. Screw was our Spotify and our Pandora. That was the way you received, you know, music.
At the Screw Shop.
At the Screw Shop. Or you knew somebody had a Screw tape and you wanted and you swapped it out. But the first group that I was ever a part of was called Thugs of Another Kind. And what ended up happening is the group broke up because we had creative differences. I was creative and they were just different. So with that record, we had sold about 5,000 units out the trunk of our car, which is pretty good,
yeah,
you know?
Pretty good.
So at that point, I decided to make my next record. So I took what money that I had made off that group and I went and bought some studio equipment. And then when I got done recording that album, I sold that studio equipment to promote the album. Because to me, it was this one shot, and this is how we were going to do it, and failure was not an option. So to sell the studio equipment that you had just recorded your album on, you know, on is, you know, kind of ballsy. It's like, all right, this is going to work. This is how we're going to do it. So around that time is when I became committed to rap music. And during the making of the country rap tune, the song was originally supposed to have UGK on the record. But what happened is Jay-Z did this song called Big Pimpin' with Pimp C and Bun B, and they're asking around 25 grand for each one to feature on, which was way out of my budget. No matter how much dope I was gonna sell, I just couldn't afford those guys. So I ended up getting HAWK and Big Pokey on the record. And when I met HAWK, HAWK had asked me, I was like, hey, have you met Screw yet? And I was like, nah, I haven't met Screw. So, you know, HAWK set up the meeting and gave me the address. So that night I go over to Screw's house, I knock on the door, and you know, I try to imagine what it's like for Screw. Here are these two white guys at the door, and when Screw opened
was you and your brother?
It was me and my brother. So when Screw opened up the door, he greeted us with an AK-47. Like, who are these two white guys knocking on my door?
It's the police.
It's got to be the police, you know. So I told him, I was like, hey man, my name's Tony. I was like, oh, okay, you're HAWK's homeboy. So from that point on, DJ Screw, you know, welcomed me with open arms. And that night, just being able to watch him work, you know, at Screw's house, there were no tables or chairs. There was just records everywhere. So for 8-9 hours, we were standing up watching Screw work, do his thing.
Yeah,
so
you knew he was about it when you saw that. Like,
I mean, when somebody's
craft,
when somebody's all about their craft and they don't even have room for you to sit down and just music, it's like, okay, this guy's really about his grind.
Yeah,
so
sure.
that's how, you know, we met Screw, and you know, Screw decided to get on the country rap tune. And if it wasn't for Screw vouching for the country rap tune, I never thought the song would be as big as it was. And so with having Screw involved, and then everybody from the Screwed Up Clique on the record, you know, making that record, I didn't know that I would end up being in the Screwed Up Clique by the end of that record.
Okay.
But Screw realized that, hey, listen, we were trying to be the Dr. Dre and the Eminem of the South. So when Screw and I were working together, things were moving so fast, and then all of a sudden he passed away. I kind of like, wait a minute, now what am I gonna do? And by that time the record was already, you know, starting to take off. So I knew I wanted to keep up his legacy and always go out there and represent Screw. So it was kind of one of those things that I was so happy from where the record started to where we finished with the record, and to have Screw be a part of it, it was just, you know, it was just a natural fit and everything came together.
I've heard so many stories about DJ Screw.
I hope only the good ones.
No, I've heard that he has crazy stories. So I need from you your most outrageous DJ Screw story, the funniest one that you could tell us.
Well, besides getting met at the door with an AK-47.
Okay, yeah, besides that.
You know, besides that one, I remember the first time I'd ever smelled fry. You know, everybody's, you know, smoking dip. And, you know.
What was it about then back then that they wanted to smoke that?
Man,
I
listen,
was wondering,
I'm a big fan of hallucinogens, so it's that part that goes in there with that, you know.
Okay.
So you got to understand, like, you know, drugs and toe down are synonymous. You know, that's just off the rip.
Yeah.
So I try to be an expert in all the fields of medication.
Okay.
But the first time I'd ever smelled fry and seen how, you know, it was done was over at Screw's house, you know. 3-2 was there, he dipped a cigarette, turned it upside down, and he lit it. And I was like an eagle focused on, you know, I was just so in tune to what, you know, what was happening. and all of a sudden they start burning it and smoking and stuff like that. And so seeing all that was going on at Screw's house at that time was like, okay, wait, we just got met with an AK-47. There's some fry going on here, I'm high as shit. My brother doesn't smoke or drink, so I can only imagine he was super paranoid about what's going on. Here we got, everybody.
Did he hit it?
No.
Okay.
Like, Bernard doesn't smoke, he doesn't do any of that stuff. So if you can imagine being in an environment where people are, smoking wet and there's guns there and there's drugs and, so it was just crazy to be in that environment at that time. And that's kind of one of the crazier stories that I have with Screw. But the craziest story that I ever have with recording with somebody is the first time I ever took gel acid. I was working with Flava Flav on a song. So if you can imagine being on acid and Flava Flav in the room, that's just, it's like, not only is he a real live cartoon character, but in my,
he's like how he's on TV and stuff?
In my inebriated state, I was like, okay, this is a little bit too weird even for me. So I've had a lot of experience.
Too weird for Toe Down, huh?
Too weird, man, too weird.
That's crazy. So like, when you DJ Screw, as you see, y'all were making the Screw, y'all had the Screw on. Could y'all tell, like, okay, this is gonna blow up the way it did and go across the country to Cali and people in New York, like A$AP Rocky using it, I mean, everybody's using it. Big Sean's using it. I heard Big Sean like a little while ago doing the Mike Jones and saying his rap over and over again. So did y'all know like it was gonna blow up like that, the chopped and screwed?
Well, Screw probably had that vision, but for us, like I said, this was a lot of ways for people to get their music. And so for us, it was something that we enjoyed making for ourselves and for our immediate families. So how it grew so organically out of Texas was just a matter of time, And okay. I remember after DJ Screw had passed away, he got a plaque from the RIAA for over 10 million records.
Wow.
That had,
He went diamond?
Yeah. So
wow.
So to see that award being, presented to Screw and his legacy was kind of like, okay, let me take a step back for a minute, And to see how Screw has now, gone over the globe many of times over now. I get calls from Australia. I get calls from Japan. And
okay, that's cool.
It's kind of nuts to see how far the reach actually is. But I'm pretty sure he was the only one that had that vision of going worldwide with the sound like that. And even still to this day, people, when you say, "Hey, I'm from Texas," there's two things that you're synonymous with when you're from Texas. You ride horses and DJ Screw.
Yeah.
That's what they want to know about.
Yeah. So the country rap tunes was a big song out here, and you had the other song. What was it? It was named after food. What was it called again?
Chicken fried steak.
Sorry,
That's right.
It's my favorite food. I should be remembering that.
If you're hungry for a hit,
So tell us, like, what was it like recording with HAWK and Big Pokey? And I remember when I heard the song and on the video, I don't remember Big Pokey rapping or in it. I just remember
Big Pokey actually plays the part of Boss Hogg. So he's at the end of the video. He's up against his Cadillac. He's in there. I'm playing dominoes with him. But making that song, the song came about. My brother had sent me to the studio to come back with like a club banger or a dance track, and I went in the studio and I was so high. I just recorded this slow melodic country twang. I wrote the hook in like 15 minutes.
Was that you singing the hook?
No, it was a guy named Joe Slaughter. Joe Slaughter actually was a karaoke singer that put in carpet by trade. So if you can imagine this, my recording studio is in a garage and the vocal booth is in a closet. So the song came about and I brought Joe Slaughter in, and Joe Slaughter sang this. The hook you hear is the first and only attempt he did, and that was it. So there was no retake, there was no do it again. That was it. It was done. Wow. So after that, once I figured out that UGK wasn't going to be able to do the record due to my lack of budget, having HAWK and Big Pokey was just a natural fit. HAWK being so country, and Pokey being the John Wayne of the rap game, that was just a natural fit. So working with HAWK, is one of those special moments in my life that I'll never forget. He's the first person to introduce me to Screw. He also helped me to get to where I'm at in the music business, and I was always so open to do, you know, whatever crazy song ideas I had, whether it be rapping over country music or rapping about chicken fried steak, and you know, to have Bun B spitting, you know, the chorus and the HAWK and Slim Thug on the record. You know, I'm pretty sure these guys are like, man, this guy's really high to be rapping about chicken fried steak. But you know, when you're on a major record, right, and everybody's asking for another representation of something like the country rap tune, the chicken fried steak record was just a mirror copy of what By Prescription Only was.
Okay.
So that was our way to try to get back to the point of getting another record deal.
Hate her, but I fuck her like a lover. I was fighting, but we kiss under the cover. And baby, I don't ever play around with you. Soon as we get together, you know what's going down. She say she love when I'm up in it. Them other niggas ain't with it. She like, what's your favorite position? I'm like, baby, every position. And I love when you wash the dishes. Not because you washing the dishes. It's because them little shorts you be wearing when you walking around in the kitchen, yeah.